any introductions of the late items, Ms. Robertson?
There's no late items from staff.
And if I could have a motion for the adoption of the agenda as on there?
I'll move.
Moved by Richard, second by Zenny. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. And if somebody could read or move the adoption of the minutes? Moved by Zenny, seconded by Adrian. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. So we're going to move on to presentations, and we're going to start with Lynn Work, our Director of Recreation and Culture. She's going to be doing a thing on the LEAP, the program review update. Oh, maybe Mr. Harding's introducing her, I don't know.
She's going right ahead into it.
Okay, Lynn,
Here.
it's all yours.
I'm just wondering if, I can't tell if it's Kelly or Guy there, but I have a slide. If you can share that.
It's Jessica.
Oh, it's Jessica.
Do you want me to do the clicking for you?
I've only got one slide, so no clicking.
That's pretty easy for me then.
Okay, so, hi everybody, nice to see you all in land. I just wanted to provide the committee with an update about the LEAP review process. As you can imagine, we've been completely sidelined by COVID, with reopening all of our recreation facilities, redeploying our staff in the summer, just everything that's been entailed in what we've had to do to manage this whole pandemic. So what we're presenting to you tonight is a new proposed LEAP review process, which is a little bit different than the one we originally proposed. So initially, our intention was to do some information gathering and get it back to the committee in October. And we just have not been able to get the information gathering until about 2 weeks ago, where we decided to strike a small committee to work on this. And we've now extended the information gathering phase to the end of December of this year. Once we gather all of that information, it will require some review, and we're giving ourselves until the next ACAI meeting, which is in well, we'll be talking about this later in the agenda tonight about the proposed dates for the meetings next year, but what we were aiming for was presenting the review of the information back to the committee on February the 24th, if that's the meeting date that gets selected. And then when we hear feedback from the committee, what we plan to do is come up with some ideas around what a revised program could look like. It's important also to note that in this information review phase of the process, we'll also be getting the information from the Reimagine Nanaimo process. And we have a question on there around barriers to recreation, which do include questions around finances, but also a whole slate of other things that might be causing barriers for people to participate in recreation. So in a way, it's good that this process was delayed, because now we'll be able to incorporate all of that information. And then we'll revise the way that we typically run our program. We'll come up with some suggestions, and we'll bring them back to the committee in April, and we're planning on presenting those suggestions to the committee on April the 28th. And if everyone is good with the suggestions, or we pick maybe the preferred option, then we'll revise our program and be ready to implement it in August of 2021, and that will align with our fall program registration. So everything that we do when we make a change needs to align with either the fall, winter, spring, or summer session. So essentially what we're doing is we're bumping out the entire timeline just by about 2 months. And I can't make any guarantees at this point that we're not going to be sidelined by COVID again. Currently, it's like balls are constantly coming at us, and we're having to adapt and change to all of the new provincial health regulations. But I think that now that we have this small team of 4 people together, we should be able to stick to this schedule. So I'm just interested in hearing any comments or concerns about this new revised timeline.
Can I get,
We still have the
Richard, just wait till you get acknowledged, please. Can I get the presentation removed so I can see the screen, please? Thank you. Okay, hands up for those who want to speak. I know Richard does, so we'll go to Richard, Adrian, and then Jocelyn. Richard?
Was this small committee that was struck, was it still able to receive the information on recommendations or thoughts about the LEAP program and how it could be improved?
Yes, I think what you're referring to is, did we get the input from this advisory committee? If that's what you're referring to, yes, we have your input, and that will be incorporated into the information gathering and review stages of the process.
Do you have a follow-up, Richard?
No.
Okay, I'll go to Adrian.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I just wanted to check in on the August, the implementation go forward date, and will that be aligned with registration for programs? So if the LEAP programs be aligned, I'm just thinking as a parent, if somebody was looking at programs, these two kids are swimming lessons, $200, right, and they don't know if they qualify or not?
Yeah.
You're nodding, so
Well, I'm actually really glad you asked that question, because the answer is yes, it'll be aligned with that, but I also think it's important for people to know that we're continuing with the program the way it currently is, so people can still access our financial assistance program right now. There's no delay in having the opportunity to get a pass.
Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Work. And do you have anything else, Adrian? Okay, we'll move to Jocelyn.
Thanks. I actually agree with you. I think the delay was really well timed in a weird way. I think I've been thinking about a lot of that with respect to Reimagine and IMO, and so I'm curious about how LEAP will look based on the information you get back from it. And I coached the wheelchair basketball team in town, and it also, because of some of the changes in COVID, has made me kind of rethink about what role LEAP might play in community-provided inclusive programs. So I might send you another email if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be great. And we do have a couple of staff right now that are working on providing a focus group that is specifically for anyone who has an interest in accessibility and inclusivity. So if you are interested in participating in that focus group, you can send me an email.
I got the invite to it, so I'll be there.
Okay, great. And also, you'll be hearing from the planning department tonight as well, and they've got a couple of focus groups that this committee might be interested in that are happening quite soon, and I think probably all of you have had an invite or heard about them.
Okay, I see Sandra with her hand up, but first, do you have anything further, Jocelyn?
No.
Okay, Sandra?
Lynn, I'll be sending you a note because I would love to be part of that focus group. I have a few groups that I talk to and get ideas from, so I'll be bringing those ideas forward, so that would be amazing.
Fabulous, thank you.
Awesome, thank you very much. That's great. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go to Mr. Harding, who has got his hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to mention is one of the kind of the benefits of going through the LEAP program review, but also the Reimagine, is that LEAP is just one program. I think one of the things we really want to look at through this review and others is identification of any barriers to participation. So we know the LEAP program is a financial aspect, but we know there's other barriers to participation in recreation and parks and cultural services. So that's, again, some of the recommendations come through the review could be other programs that may not be related to the LEAP program, but some other barriers that we could identify and work towards to increase participation.
I was going to bring this up under new business, but since Mr. Hardy brought it up, I have asked, we're looking at, they're redoing the trail through Bowen Park, so I have asked the engineer that's doing that to come to our committee to show us the plan so that you can take a look at and see, because there's some significant sloping issues, etc. I don't know if your input may be able to change some of the stuff. It depends on the engineering specifics, but he will be bringing us a presentation so that you can see the redesign for the Bowen Park trails. Thank you. Okay, Any other comments? Excuse me. Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Ward. Really appreciate all the work you're doing on this. And we do understand COVID is going to be your #1 priority, so if you need more time, certainly let us know. We all understand the many directions you're being pulled. Appreciate it once again. So moving on, we're now going to go to the reports. The Advisory Committee on Accessibility and Inclusiveness Key Date Calendar to be introduced by Ms. Robertson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Prior to the end of the year, each year, key date calendars are produced for each of the committees and for council, and it's based on council's procedure bylaw as well as the terms of reference. And so continuing on with the meeting times, for 2021, they're proposed to continue from 3 to 5 p.m. every couple of months. And in your package, under attachment A are the proposed dates. And so what we're looking for, if the committee is still on board with this, well, not tonight's meeting time, but the regular meeting time of 3 to 5, then we would be looking for a motion from the committee that the Advisory Committee on Accessibility and Inclusiveness recommend that Council approve their 2021 key date calendar.
Before we go to a motion, does anybody on the committee have any issues with the date and time?
I just won't be able to make anything until 4 p.m. So on the weekdays.
Oh, you got something new happening?
Yeah, new full-time job.
Oh, good for you. Okay, so we just have one, and I think there was problems if we went later, so we're probably going to have to stick with that, Richard, but what we will do is we will ensure that we get notes to you in a timely manner.
Sure.
Okay. I think I saw Sandra with her hand up.
Yeah, I also have difficulty, so if it was the regular 3 to 5, I had like 9 hours of meetings today, so I wouldn't have been able to make it, so it was lucky that it was 5 o'clock. So I know that it's difficult, and it's difficult for staff as well, but a weekday it is difficult during a work schedule.
I just want to confirm with Ms. Robertson.
If there's any changes to this proposed, I'd have to go back and we'd have to take a look because we have so many other committees and conflicts that we'd have to see if there's any other time. So I'd have to come back.
So for the members of the committee, would you prefer 5 to 7? Because originally people preferred the 3 to 5. So by a show of hands, could you show me who wants 3 to 5? None. By a show of hands, sorry.
There was Adrian.
So it's okay. So for me, my work was really supportive of me being on the committee. If we do 3 to 5, I can come during working hours. If we do 5 to 7, they're supportive of me taking time back for that. Because even though I'm attending as myself, they see the benefit of the learning that I can do on the committee. So I'm good with whatever is better for the.
What about, my next question, what about a 4 to 6? Anybody in favor of a 4 to 6? I see 1, 2 hands up, 3 hands up, 4 hands up.
Either of the 2, 4 or 5 is fine.
Okay. So what we'll do then, before we accept this, I'm going to have to go to Karen, Ms. Robertson, to see, because if we make a change, you're going to have to check into it to see if it's viable.
What I could do is take a recommendation from the committee from 4 to 6, and if it doesn't, then I'll get back to everybody.
Does that work for people, a 4 to 6 then? Then it gets you free to go for supper and, okay, so does somebody want to make that recommendation for me? Made by Councilor Martin and seconded by Sandra. All in favor? By show of hands?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, motion carries because none opposed. Thank you very much, and thank you all for your ability to try and readjust for us. Appreciate that as well. Now we're going to next move on to Reimagine Nanaimo, and Miss Karen Crosdell will be doing that presentation, but I think it's going to be introduced by Miss Ward. Sorry, Lynn.
No problem. It is a bit strange being in Zoom land to do this introduction, but Karen Consul is here from the Community Planning Department, and she's going to provide you with an update on the whole Reimagine process. Over to you, Karen.
Oh, thanks so much, Lynn. Can everybody hear me? Okay, awesome. Well, really really appreciate being invited back to the committee today. If I could get my PowerPoint pulled up for everyone to see. It's really not that essential though. Some of this stuff you've seen before is a bit of a refresher on what is Reimagine Nanaimo, which I know many of you have been involved in stakeholder meetings, have been really helpful in promoting the survey and the other tools, but just to refresh our memories, Reimagine Nanaimo is involved 6 of our major policy documents, the official community plan. Oh, nope, that went too far. Oops. It's okay. It's okay. I have the clicker here. Where are we now, though? Blank. That's not good. There we are. Okay, so we're back on the official community plan, the Parks, Recreation, and Culture plan update, our new active transportation plan, the climate action plan, economic development strategy, and the water supply strategic plan. So all 6 being done in harmony together through the Reimagine Nanaimo public engagement process. Just to give you a sense of where we're at the very end here of phase 1. Our survey and our creative community contest both close at the end of November. And we are having some stakeholder meetings continuing on into December, but most of them are being done by the end of November, just to give our consultant Lanark that we're working with a bit of time to put together the public engagement report that will be coming forth in January, February 2021. Somewhere in that time frame. I know this one's a bit of a beast to look at, but just to get a sense, we're nearing the end of phase 1. So I wanted to thank particularly Richard for his help and input on the accessible survey. I realized that was circulated to the committee. Thanks so much. We've sent it out to quite a few people who've expressed interest in a more accessible survey in terms of both text-to-voice software, but literacy levels as well. So we've shared that with Literacy, who was great in helping us develop it, Multicultural Association, and others. So we haven't actually had that many people respond yet to this accessible survey. So if there's anyone that you've been meaning to send it out to, and you haven't had a chance yet, now is the time, because it closes on Monday. So it's kind of in our last hour here. But of course, in phase 2, there'll be other opportunities for engagement, but we are trying to get as many people to do the initial survey as we can. And as was being mentioned by Lynn earlier, we have a huge number of stakeholder meetings happening. About 100, I anticipate will be done over the course of phase 1 when all things are considered. Now that includes things like school groups. I've done 6 or 7 school groups myself. There's many different user groups being done through Parks, Recreation, and Culture, and then with different organizations like the Brain Injury Society, as well as, I believe actually the Spinal Cord, correct me if I'm wrong, Jocelyn, the Spinal Cord Injury is organizing on with transportation. Yeah, thumbs up. So that's been wonderful. So it's been wonderful to have the support of so many different community members. You can see here, there's a picture here of some Zoom calls, and then there's also one of a socially distant gathering. I will say for the most part, we're no longer doing any in-person engagement. We did have some things planned for the month of November in terms of pop-ups at the malls on the weekends. All of that was canceled, quite rightly, but we are still able to do the online engagement, and that's been going really well. So totally enjoying the various stakeholder meetings and school participation. We also had a blitz done through BIU this last week. We were able to recruit some of their communication staff into our network, and they were really helpful. We ran a sort of mini competition with its own survey prizes, and some of the students were getting involved that way. So that's been wonderful. So I wanted basically to come here because I know that your chair had brought up these 2 questions at the last time we had this meeting. The first one being, what is Nanaimo's biggest opportunity? And the second one being, Nanaimo's biggest challenge. I'm a bit of an optimist, so I always like to start with the positive. I know you had time to think about this because it's been 2 months since our last meeting, so I don't know, Chair, maybe you can take the order of folks to tell us what they think Nanaimo's biggest opportunity.
Okay, so I gotta go to my screen. Can I?
And you can stop the...
Okay, there we go. So who wants to start us off? Anybody want to hand up for me?
So you can see everybody.
Do you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna pick. I'm gonna start with Jocelyn because she's in my top grade. Okay, Jocelyn?
I also wanted to mention that Richard is also helping with the low vision version of the transportation consultation, so
awesome
that we might attend each other. So there's some intersection happening there. Anyway, I'm a reasonably new person to Nanaimo. Been 2.5 years, and while this seems like kind of a simple thing, I know from my home finding approach, it's not easy. I think the waterfront, the downtown waterfront area, is the biggest opportunity, personally. There's just so much there in terms of the downtown opportunities to be together as a city, to enjoy, to be entertained, to shop, but also park space and potential ferries, boardwalks. It's just such a beautiful, interesting part of the city, and just so many opportunities left there. Yeah, so I don't know if you want challenges yet, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you very much, because I do remember, Jocelyn, when I sent you guys those things with the wheels that go into the water, you had some pros and cons to that, so those would be things too that I'd be looking for from yourselves, is what would be wheelchair friendly or accessible to get you into water if required, or, to give you that opportunity to be in the water, so I think...
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not every downtown that has like a beach-like waterfront area the way we have with the Swayalana Lagoon. And I, as a wheelchair user, I always prefer a place that I can, if I have to drive to it, I like to be able to get out of my car and then have a wheel, enjoy, get some food. Let's do a bunch of things in that area. And right now, some of the downtown and waterfront areas is a bit chopped up. And it would be really cool to see more ways to make it cohesive and inclusive of, the whole city, and just connect all the great things that are already down there.
Awesome, thank you, and then I'll come back to you after for the challenges. I'm going to go to Sandra next.
Hi, so it's funny because I'm in alignment with Boston, and I've had so many conversations with people about the downtown. I'm originally from Victoria, and I think a really vibrant ocean, walkway, shops and, coffee shops, just bringing people together creates such a great community, and I think that highlighting that and showcasing to Nanaimo is beautiful. Like, I don't regret moving to Nanaimo. I really do feel it's a great place to raise a family, and I do get a sense of community, but I don't think we have the space to showcase our community.
Okay, so you see being able to showcase our community as one of our key opportunities? Is that fair? Which actually falls upon what the Mayor's Task Force came about too, saying the same thing. So thank you. Rachel?
I think that Nanaimo has lots of space to include more opportunities for artwork, especially in the downtown area. Part of what the people have been saying, how Victoria is so vibrant, I think part of that comes from the stuff that they've been able to incorporate into their downtown, and I really appreciate the few murals that downtown Nanaimo has. They're beautiful, they're amazing. I think they add so much to the city, and there's so many walls, it's, the hill down through downtown, there's so many blank spaces, basically, where maybe things are getting tagged, or it's not so great. So inviting more of our culture, our city is vibrant, putting more of that out there, I think, would be an amazing opportunity.
Great, thank you very much. Adrian?
I really like everything that's been said so far, and I just, when I first saw this question, I hadn't yet I read an article, I think it was not this past weekend, but the weekend before in the Globe and Mail, and it was about changes that have happened during COVID and how we can keep some of those changes. And so I started thinking about this question a little more, and I'm centered on the downtown too, but not just on the downtown, just thinking about ways that we bring people together. And I think that the downtown market was a great way pre-COVID to have that happen. And I look at things that have happened since COVID, such as the patio seating and the drawing people together in the community. And thinking back to the Jane Jacobs walk a couple of years ago, we took our kids and went on the Jane Jacobs walk, and I think it was Chris Schulberg, we were standing in Diana Call Plaza, and he said, "Can anyone tell me what's missing this plaza?" And my son, who was probably 9, said, there's no little patios and places to sit. And he saw it, like, right away, and he's grown up, walking downtown from our home in the Old State Quarter. And I really think that keeping those things that allow us to be together, even if we can't be together in the same way as the beautiful throngs of people at the market on Thursday nights in the summers, those past few summers, would be great. And just ways to be connected, as Jocelyn said. A good example of it is, and there's more dog parks since then, but I mean, the Collier Dam, 10 years ago when my kids were small, that was where we went all the time, because my father-in-law, who is still with us, and my brother-in-law, who both use scooters, could easily go to the dam and enjoy it. We could bring the 2 dogs and the 2 families. I could bring the stroller, or the kids could walk, and we were all together, and we were able to be together as a family and interact with other families of, different generations. So I just see a lot of opportunity for connection. I think I've told this story at this table before, maybe when we were talking about Metro Drive, about how it wasn't until, so some background, I lived for 11 years in Victoria as well, and moved here pre-kids. So it wasn't until I went on parental leave and came back when I realized that my job at the regional district in the Tyler North End, I was driving to places that were way shorter distances than I had been walking to downtown when I was on my parental leave. It's just the way that particular section of the North End was constructed didn't lend itself to being together and a variety of modes of transportation. And you're already taking great strides in that area. So I just think more of the same, more connection, more ability for all of us to move around. And speaking to the art, more connection between community groups too, like the murals that went up this summer. My kids actually went to the CHLY radio camp, and they went out and they investigated all of those murals that were put in downtown. They investigate when you put in new public art. And even though the city isn't connected with that camp, you're working together. You're working together to bring people together. So
Thank you. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying about the Hammond Bay area, which obviously, we inherited, when did we incorporate, in the 80s or something like that? 74. Or 74, anyhow. But I do want to give a shout out to our planning staff. If you go take a look at what's going on in Harewood at University Village and all those, they're making that a very walkable community. So, so great. I think every time that they get the opportunity, they're trying to apply these principles that we learned about. So thanks to Dale and his crew. Richard?
I think the summer markets have been especially an amazing highlight of the culture of Nanaimo, and has even brought people outside of Nanaimo to visit the farmers markets and such. The farmers markets were a really good hub for people to be able to congregate in a safe outdoor space too. And I think right now, with COVID really affecting people in the arts community, all arts, obviously I'm a bit biased because I'm painting behind me, but I think all forms of the arts are kind of really struggling right now. And I think if we really tried to highlight how Nanaimo does have a vibrant art scene in the next year, it would really help bring a lot of tourism to the island and help boost community engagement and such. And I think having more, I want to acknowledge that there has been a great increase, especially around that University Village area. there has been increases in walkability with increases in accessible like crosswalks and such, and continuing on that sort of vein to actually offer even more accessible routes both in our parks and our beaches, so that more people can access them. People with strollers, people in wheelchairs, people with canes, all that sort of stuff. And actually having like more benches at the parks so that people can really enjoy the vibrancy and the wildlife and such that we have here.
Great, so what I'm taking from yours is then we have the opportunity to expand on our arts and culture capacity in the city.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Linda?
Hey there. I think we have a tremendous opportunity again at the waterfront, and I'd love to see it linked more to the Old City Quarter. It's such a beautiful waterfront, and then you come in a block or two, and it gets a bit sketchy, and then you come up to the Old City Quarter, and it's lovely again. So to tie those two areas together so that once there's cruise ships again, or people can just take advantage of all the local businesses in the Old City Quarter. And I have no idea how you would do that. And then maybe expand the waterfront north a bit towards Departure Bay. Just, I guess akin to the way Vancouver did it, from Stanley Park to Falls Creek. And it would be lovely. It's such a beautiful feature, the water. And just to have it as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. There's just beautiful, beautiful parks in the city that, I'm really grateful. So that's what comes to my mind.
Okay, just so you know, the waterfront walkway is being worked on still by staff. There's it's a significant cost, and there's some challenges that they're looking at. So, but that is still on the agenda. It's still on council's agenda. Right now with COVID, obviously, it's like 40-some million, I believe, to build it. So that's a lot of money to come up with in total.
Yeah.
So it's, we're looking at it. Staff has done a really good job of presenting it to us in phases. So every time there's an opportunity, like we had the opportunity to get a grant to expand the phase down by the water basement, I guess, they're doing that. So great point. So what I took away from yours is better connectivity of sites and businesses in the center of the downtown area.
Can I add?
Go ahead.
Just also, someone else mentioned the North End, and lots of people live up there too. And I tried once to walk from Woodgrove, or to roll from Woodgrove across to a quilting place on the other side of the highway, Surgeon So, and oh my goodness, it was like a life-threatening endeavor, and Google Maps with no help. So, connected. I guess connectivity.
Yeah. Okay, super. Councilor Mortman, you're up.
Thank you. And just to build on that, I think there's been great improvements in that street crossing because there's now flashing lights in that one area. But Metro Street with the connectivity in the north, Metro Street will be a complete street that is supposed to be accessible for walking, biking, all forms of transportation that's outside of the car, from Woodgrove to Rutherford Mall. So that is the intent, to make that connection. And then also on the waterfront, Councillor Armstrong, I believe that actually the 40 million waterfront walkway project was being reviewed at lowering that cost and making it more environmentally seashore but it is still being worked on. And then also what's being worked on, I agree, how do we get to rebuilding that waterfront and all that area and up to the Old City Quarters? And trust me, that's high on the priority for this council as well. So there are some things that are on the way.
And that's a Green Shore development you're referring to. Okay, now next we're out, unless you have something else, Karen.
No, I wasn't sure if Zenny had any of her own opportunities that she wanted to.
Do you have any other opportunities you want to bring up, Zenny?
No, for me on a personal level, and and now that I'm on the RDN, I think one of our biggest opportunities is improvements in our transit system and our transportation and accessibility. So that's what I would say is our greatest opportunity.
Okay, now,
That's just on a personal note.
There we go, we're moving on.
okay, now we're moving on to our biggest challenges, and again, I'm gonna start with Jocelyn, up to my right. Our biggest challenge. Oh, you're on mute.
I had a small thought about the opportunities, which reflects a bit on the challenge, but Nanaimo has some of the most beautiful parks that I've ever lived close enough to use regularly, and the fact that the Parkway Trail and the E&N Trail connect a lot of the city in a reasonably bike-friendly way is such a cool thing for me, because the way I can cycle, I can't take my chair with me. So when I bike, I go somewhere on my bike and have to stay on my bike the whole time. So having a trail to connect parks is such a cool thing for me, and I just adore living in the south part of the city because of that. And I'd love to, in fact, I think I'm going to be part of some efforts to connect some of those parks in more of an inclusive way, hopefully in the future. So I'm super excited about that. In terms of challenges, I think it would be hard not to say homelessness, and it's something I see a lot and I feel really strongly about, and I feel like we haven't yet won over the city in terms of citizens, in terms of the social need and support needs of the folks who make that Island Highway piece of downtown sketchy. And it's the hardest problem, but I think we can't get to the opportunity without kind of taking a real full court press against that issue. And I know a lot is happening, and anywhere I can help, I'm trying to, because it affects all of us.
We are waiting for a report from the Homelessness and Health Task Force, which will be making some recommendations, but those that know me know my viewpoint on it very strongly, is that it belongs to the province, that's what you pay provincial taxes for. Just take a look at Vancouver itself, $318 million in the downtown east side last year, and they're even in worse shape. So, I mean, until we start dealing with the core issues, anyhow, that's just myself. Councilor Martin?
Thank you. I concur with you, Councillor Armstrong, but I'm also cautiously optimistic for Nanaimo. I think in 1 year, I'm hopeful that in 1 year we will have seen supportive housing and affordable housing built, because it's of modular construction. I agree with the refocus on that Nickel Street, that drive into Nanaimo when you're coming from Victoria. That is where supportive housing, some of it will be. However, I've also been to Port Alberni and been to Parksville and viewed those areas, and it's actually made improvements. So I'm with the navigation center coming, which was a bonus for Nanaimo. If we get it up and running, that's our hardest to house. Those are our people that cannot even be successful in shelters or any type of accommodation, and being able to navigate them into the correct resources and placement that they need, be it brain injury or seriously addicted. Although I'm with Councillor Armstrong, unless they can put them in places that are needed, I don't know how successful we can be, but I think there's a lot of work that you're going to see happen over the next year. But this is definitely something that ties into all our social, environmental, economic, and financial. It ties up our city in many, many ways.
Okay, Sandra?
Well, I mean, I do agree, and I think poverty, not just homelessness, but I think we do have some families who are unable to maintain the lifestyle that supporting their children in the way that they want to. I also think that just as we grow, I think we're growing in leaps and bounds as a city. So just as the other side of my opportunity is also creating a community identity where it brings the people together that are moving from, we have a lot of people moving from the mainland or moving up from Victoria that are coming into our community and just knitting that together and having a community identity.
Thank you. Yeah, that's always a question I ask myself, how much development is too much? Okay, and now Rachel?
Kind of echoing what's already been said, I think affordable housing and accessible housing is probably Nanaimo's biggest challenge, and this is a challenge shared by cities all over the West Coast. I think that the federal government has just created a housing and homelessness national task force, so there may be some more support and money being handed out to provinces and cities, but I definitely think housing is Nanaimo's biggest challenge.
Great, thank you. Adrian?
Thank you. Yeah, on a sort of a short term, I would say the dual public health crises, drug poisoning crisis and COVID-19, because of what those two crises mean for our community in terms of family, in terms of connection, in terms of economy, all those different things, and there's different levels of, things that the different levels of government can do in order to help get us through, but certainly it will be a challenge for Nanaimo in collaboration with federal, provincial, Indigenous governments and community partnerships for sure. Long term as well, the homelessness, poverty, and really the competing priorities for everything when the city is trying to do the good that it's trying to do on every front. And I see that in every new initiative and in things like this committee and in all of the work that is happening to try to make our community the best it can be for all of us. I think that a lot of times with funding, you hear, oh, well, this is too expensive or that's too expensive, and so sort of looking at things in a go-forward way, as you are doing and doing very well, to say, we may have built things like this before, we may have organized things like this before, we may have done things like this before, but we have a chance to do a new way forward with everything from structures, like, the way our buildings are structured, to the way that we bring our community together. And when people say, that's not for me, I don't need it, I'd be fine without that, they shouldn't spend the money on that. When we spend the money on something that is inclusive for a group, it becomes inclusive for everyone. And I think that if we have that mindset going forward, it'll help us tackle those challenges in terms of things like homelessness and poverty and economy and accessibility. So I know people always say follow the money, so I wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Richard?
I think the points around how we can combat the poverty issues are all really, getting the tools from the provincial government to be able to help with employment, to help with transportation, to help with housing. Those are, and of course the overdose crisis. Those are all like major issues that are going to need to be tackled by the provincial government. But I wonder what sort of roles that the city can play to help with employment, especially with marginalized communities. In the sense that, like, you can go to school at our university here at BIU, and then the only jobs that are available for people with disabilities might be in Victoria or in Vancouver, but if you don't have the means to be able to move there, then you're kind of, stuck in cement. And so maybe being able to partner with, like, the Chamber of Commerce and bring more awareness of employment opportunities and educating employers on what sort of possibilities there are for people with disabilities. International Persons with Disabilities Day is coming up on December 3rd, and it would be a good day to be able to recognize those sort of things, for instance. And employment is what can help people get out of poverty. It can be a way to get people into better housing. It can be a way to, give people hope in a sense. So, I don't know, bringing more awareness to those specific cultural issues, because there is a lot of disdain, I would say, culturally around people that are homeless, people that are dealing with mental health and addiction. Again, a lot of that onus is on the province, but I think the city might be able to do something as well.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is to develop better job opportunities for those with disabilities and diverse abilities. Okay?
Yeah.
Linda?
I agree with everything that's been said, of course. And I see one of the challenges is being money and paying for it. And I wonder if there's an opportunity here to pursue some innovative social impact investing or social financing. There's no shortage of money on the planet. It's getting it to where you want it, right? And I know that Richard put the city in touch with some grant money. Sometimes the federal government has some through the Enabling Accessibility Fund. There's some innovation financing sometimes. And I know that some of the really big charitable organizations are getting interested in smart cities and funding innovative programs that, something like a Pay for Success in social housing, so that, they fund the housing and then it's up to the wraparound supports to try to help get the people back into the workforce. I think the days of looking to government for all the money we need are probably over, and trying to get creative in finding money elsewhere.
Okay, so
do some grant writing.
So just on your smart cities, we did have a presentation today from our IT person for our finance and audit. Very, very interested in that. He comes from the private sector and he's bringing a lot of great innovative ideas on that as well. So that's a really good point. So we are looking at doing that. Challenges, you said, is funding with competing priorities. That's a huge challenge. So really important. And the other thing, having worked in government so many years, when your particular MP is not one of the two main parties, that always makes it even harder too. So, because they have a tendency to go where they can get votes, as we all know, political world.
Yeah.
Councilor Hartman, anything? Okay, so I'm going to add my 2 cents. What I see the biggest challenge is healthcare. We desperately need a tertiary hospital. Our hospital is over capacity right now and there's no money to build. I sit on the RDN, I sit on the hospital board, and all the money from VHA pretty well goes south of the Malahat. So we're kind of left behind a lot. We already pay 40% at the hospital, which by law we're not supposed to, but we do just so we can get stuff, because healthcare under the Constitution does belong to the province. So for me, I hear from people all the time, and we get emails at Mayor and Council, can you help me find a family doctor? We don't have enough family doctors. I talked to the VHA. We can't get psychiatrists to come here. We can't get psychologists to come here. So when I talked to, it was actually Dr. Goodall, who was piloting a project to get young surgeons and stuff here, one of the biggest issues was there wasn't good jobs for their spouses. So they relocated to places like Vancouver, Victoria, where they did have the better job opportunities for spouses. So that's something we're competing all across Canada with. It's not just like a local area. One of the good things, though, is that we do have the natural environment that a lot of people like with the trails, etc. So, but for me, one of our biggest challenges is going to be the healthcare. And the bigger our city grows and the less doctors we have, we're going to be in worse shape than we already are. So that's my challenge. Okay, Karen, back to you. Anything further?
Oh, I just wanted to thank all the committee members for their ideas. It's very much in line with what we've heard. And And just one comment on the issue of resources and coordination. I think one thing I can say, I work also with the Health and Housing Task Force that Chair mentioned, is that we've learned through our work with the consultant there that we can achieve much greater results with better coordination. So not only are we trying to do that in the Health and Housing Task Force work, but we're also trying to do that through this process. So really appreciate you guys' input today, and certainly we'll be seeing more of me at the next meeting.
And thank you very much, and thank you committee members for your input. So now we're going to move on to inclusiveness, inclusion and diversity. So I wanted to do a couple things on this first. So after our last meeting, I heard from everybody that we would like to start looking more at the inclusion and diversity piece. So I reached out to Alessandro Licelli. I always get his name wrong. He's the president of the Gay Pride, or the Pride Society here, to come speak to us, and he's more than willing to come in February to speak about the challenges he sees and pros and cons. I also reached out to, Miles Straga. I don't know if people are aware of him. He owns Port Place Mall, or no, he doesn't own it. He owns Port Place Hair Spa, and he has a very, very diverse workplace. He's very committed to hiring diverse abilities, different languages. It's like he says, it's the UN of hairdressing salons. So he's very invested in finding opportunities. So I also asked him if he'd be willing to speak, and he is. So if you guys are willing, I'd like to have them two come as speakers, because they're working in the field, and they could bring us a lot of knowledge as well, and talk about the struggles that they see and the good things that they see. So those are my 2 points on inclusion and diversity that I wanted to bring forward. Now I'm going to ask by a show of hands those that want to speak on it. No one? So is everybody okay? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sandra.
I think that's great. I missed the last meeting, but I think that those would be a great speaker to have.
Okay, and if anybody else has any ideas of who you think would be good, please email Legislative Services, because I figure we should probably do an hour of our meeting on that. Plus, we want to do Lynn Wark at our next meeting for the LEAP program, so that's going to probably be about an hour and a half, and then that will give us another half hour to just talk or whatever, because you know me, I run a pretty fast meeting. Okay, go ahead. Who do I got up there? Jocelyn.
Cheryl, I brought something for new business to this one, but it was probably way too late for this meeting. So if you could, if it could be in the February meeting, that would be great. It's specifically on accessible parking.
Okay.
I know that's always a bit of a dicey subject, but given that the province sort of downloaded it to municipalities, and there's also changes in the way accessible parking is working or not working for people, it's something I'd really love to hear more about.
Okay, now, Zenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know when we had the issues downtown with the accessible parking, whatever, I think there's supposed to be another staff report coming forward on that, or did it, Zenny?
No, I do believe, because it was, we did rescind the bylaw we had at first passed regarding the restriction to hours. But I wasn't aware of what governmental changes had happened with the parking.
Yes, 2 years ago, when they redid the building code, they made parking, I'm not sure whether it's specifically accessible parking or all of parking now a municipal issue, and it's happened kind of all over the place. And there's also the co-occurring problem of you don't have a code for van accessible parking, which leaves a lot of people isolated who are folks who are now enabled to travel on their own because they have, they use power wheelchairs with side entering vehicles, but there aren't very many, like some places in Imo have some great spaces, but there's a lot of patchwork even in really new development. And anyway, I got a specific complaint about a pretty new development in Nanaimo from a friend in the tourism industry. So I thought it would be a good way to bring it forward and ask more about how Nanaimo is approaching accessible parking.
Okay, Jocelyn, while we're on it, while we're on it, I'm gonna get Dale, who's in here, Mr. Lindsay, who's in charge of our planning department. He's got some things to say, and then I'll come back to you, Zeddy.
Okay, I'm good then, if Dale's gonna speak.
Dale trumps you, sorry, buddy.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. This is my first time at the committee, so I haven't had the opportunity to meet most of you. Adrian, I know we worked together in the past, so it's good to see Adrian. Certainly, I think it'd be a good idea for us to bring to this committee a presentation on the parking bylaw. Our bylaws, I think, deal with what you're talking about, are sort of private developments and what we require when developers come in terms of number of spaces and their locations and proximity to the entrances to buildings. So maybe a little bit of an update on that and some input. Those bylaws are things that we're always looking to update and keep current. So if there's things that the committee would like to comment on, I think that would be appropriate. So happy to put that on one of your upcoming agendas. There's also always I can speak more to the my team works more with developments, so sort of on-site parking, but the issue of on-street parking also comes up from time to time, and that's dealt with more through our engineering department. But if that's of interest, maybe we can partner with them and do more of an overall parking update on one evening or one meeting.
So if it's okay, Jocelyn, can we put that to the April 28th meeting? Are you okay with it going that far? Or would you want it sooner if you can?
I'm sad to kick it that far down the line, but if that's the only place it can be.
Just how much time would you need, Mr. Lindsay?
I don't think a lengthy presentation. It would really depend how long the committee wanted to talk about it, but we could send something out in advance and do a very brief presentation, maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay, I'm just looking to our clerk here, so I'm thinking for our February meeting, we're going to have the two speakers on inclusiveness and diversibility.
How long did you want to have for them to?
I would say they'd be at least an hour, because you'd probably each speak for 15 minutes, open it up to questions. So we could put you in on the February 24th, if that worked, Mr. Lindsay?
Sure.
Is that okay then?
And then
Hang on just a second.
There's also another presentation
Please.
the school board is coming already on the 24th?
Possibly, it's not, that's,
I didn't know that.
Richard, had emailed about it as a late thing, but then pushed it to February.
And how long is Lynn's lead program?
Lynn's lead program, because what's she gonna go over, do you remember? Is it the recommendations?
Not yet.
What we're,
Be the review.
What we're-
Review.
sorry,
Oh, there you are, Lynn.
I don't think we need a great deal of time to do our
15 minutes?
I would expect maybe 15 to 20 minutes with some time for
So if we took, between you and Mr. Lindsay, that would be a half hour. So that still gives us a half hour with the school board, if they come. So I don't know if they would need more than half hour. And I'm being kind of generous on the other two, but I'm just thinking we might have a lot of questions because we haven't really tackled this issue yet. We've really focused more on accessibility.
So we've got already, this might probably push us to 2.5, but
Well, we're only an hour, I go fast.
yeah.
We have a really our group is fast. We move. We come prepared to our table. So we'll try and put that in then on the February meeting if we can, Jocelyn, but if we do have the school board come in and they're longer, we might have to push it out. But that doesn't stop you from sending an email to bylaw services or to planning about your concerns, right, Mr. Lindsay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
sent it to legislative services, so if they wouldn't mind forwarding it to planning, that would be great.
Is that okay? Stand by.
Sorry, did you say you sent it already? Or that you?
I sent it at like 4:45 or so.
Oh, tonight?
Oh, okay,
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so are you ladies okay with doing that? Forwarding it? If they
Yeah,
send it
no,
to you?
we'll look after it and coordinate.
Okay, so then you know what we'll do then? Just to make it simpler for the committee, any ideas or suggestions that you come up with, send it to legislative services. Girls are smart, they'll know where to forward it to. So then you only have to worry about one group instead of who's this guy, who's that guy, or this girl, that girl. So we'll leave it with them, so thank you very much, and we'll try and get you on, but we may not be able to based on the previous things, so. Now, do we have any other questions on inclusion and diversity? Going once? Richard? I see you thinking.
Well, we have a lot of disability community groups here, like regionally in Nanaimo. I know that we're doing the session with Novi, but there's groups like the Disability Resource Center, there's the Brain Injury Society, there are a ton of conversations around mental health. I think reaching out to some of these community groups would definitely be beneficial. I believe the crisis line has like a resource database that's publicly accessible for community groups, yeah, I think that would definitely be really good to have like larger community groups being able to bring up their issues or concerns and things that would be able to be constructive and positive at the same time too.
I'm sure most of those groups know that this committee was struck at some point, but maybe we could give them a heads up, and if they would like to share a concern that their members face, that for discussion, they could, put that forward.
I think a lot of our staff are in regular contact with a lot of these groups, and I believe Ms. Work may even have some information on that.
Well, I know that we're connecting with a lot of those groups right now through our engagement process, doing our focus group. So I could probably just double check and make sure that we are connected with all of them. I think what might be helpful is if I had a list of some of these groups that you're thinking of, so that I can cross-reference our stakeholder list with the organizations that you're bringing up, so that I can make sure that we've hit them all. I don't know if anyone can provide me with that list. It really would be helpful.
Are you able to do that, Richard, from your perspective, for the groups you're thinking of?
Yeah, I can do some digging.
That's right. And Linda, you probably have some good ones too, right?
There's some connections up on the hill that I think the Positive Space Alliance and our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion group at the university. They already have this.
Yeah, what if we create a larger Google document or some sort of document that has what we currently have, so we're not just providing duplicates?
Okay, so one thing I want to point out right now, I think this is something we talked about when we first started the committee. One of our goals, I think, was to have a directory of all those different programs like that, so that is something we can work on. Unfortunately, right now, COVID has really kicked everybody in the butt, with our staff is being drawn in so many different directions. So I would like to focus on that maybe next year as we move on. I think right now, I would like to see us do a little bit more in the inclusion piece, just because we haven't touched that. And this is our third or fourth meeting already. So I think it's really important that we go to that. Keep those ideas on the back burner, and we can look at bringing that in and I know you're not going to like it, but probably for the fall, because that's probably going to be the next time we were going to get the opportunity. But there's nothing from stopping people from sending ideas forward to legislative services. We can put those in our minute notes or new business things to talk about, and we can sit as a group and assign dates to them if we like. That's an option we can look at. Or quite often we rely on our staff to do that, because they know what the schedules are like and the availability of many of the groups that we want to bring in. But I personally would really think if we could sit down and try and develop with our staff good resources for people new to Nanaimo, so that they just have to, it's something like the Health and Housing Task Force is doing, it's like a one-stop shop, right? So I think we can build on that. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, can I add or ask a question?
Sure, Linda.
Are we including their race here, or are we just looking at inclusion in terms of sexuality?
I personally think I think it should be culture, race, sexuality, gender. To me, inclusion is everything. We are looking, I do sit on the First Nations POG, so we do have some of those groups that are separate than this, that are bringing in information, but we have the Multicultural Society, which we deal with, our staff does on a regular basis, so I think sometimes we forget, because they're not at this table, that our staff still has a lot of involvement with a lot of them. But I think we do have to really talk about that. I actually sit on the racism committee. It's No Voices or something by, and it's got one MP, 3 MLAs, and a group on it. It's a really interesting committee that maybe once they get their stuff, we can ask them to come present their findings to this group. Because it's between, I think it's called Lady Smith Spoke. Nanaimo Ladies Who Spoke, I can't remember the name. It's actually meeting right now, but I'm missing it because of this one. So and again, I think it goes to what we were talking about earlier. There's a lot of groups doing a lot of work in town, but not everybody knows about them. And I mean, I've heard more, and I've been here for like 10 years and worked a lot with community groups in my last role. And I'm hearing all these new names, like we also have NUCO, which is another great one, Nanaimo Unique Kids Organization, fabulous. We've got our child center, we've just got so many good things here, and I think it's something we can build on, but right now I kind of see us still in our infancy, and then we're moving towards our baby steps, and then, I always want to run, but I'm trying to hold myself back and do it properly, so if we could stick on...
One more question, or resource. I know that the United Way has a collection of organizations, and that phone number 211.
Yes.
That's to community services.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, because I know our person at VIU that used to do the United Way fundraising on campus had a pretty good lead on what was available in the Nanaimo area. So that might be, we might not have to reinvent the wheel if they've already got some
Yeah, agreed. They were very important to health and housing consultations, and they got a hold of my organization because they already fund us a little bit, and through that there were probably 20 other organizations represented. So I think that's a great start.
Yeah, I sat on United Way for 7 years here, up until 2016, so I'm very familiar with 211 and what's there, but there are some of these groups missing in the linkages, because again, they were looking, a lot of it was actually more around vulnerable populations. So you wanted to speak?
Yeah, hi everyone, it's Laura Clarkson here from Parks and Rec. I just wanted to let you know that we also on the city website, on the Parks, Recreation and Culture section, along with our activity guide, we do have a listing of all the clubs and organizations, and a lot of the local agencies are on there. So maybe that also would be a good starting place. I think Linda just said, let's not reinvent the wheel. So we could also look at our own city document as a good starting place and maybe go from there.
Okay, so why don't we put that off for business at another date? So now we're moving on to other business. Committee member check-in. So did everybody get a chance to look at the membership list and the terms of reference it? Okay. So, before we go on to that, I'm going to switch B around. Just so you guys are aware, I had to change the motions that we drafted because I asked for a staff report. Instead of directing staff to create the bylaw, I asked for a staff report. So the two motions are there because it's always important that we get the staff report first. So we did amend the motions to staff report, just so you're aware of that. So those will be coming up. Right now, just so you're aware, all of our departments are heavily involved in the budget process. So a lot of these reports will be on the back burner until we get our budget set and established, because it's going to be a very difficult one this year with COVID. So they're really focused on that. So, but that is coming. So now I want to go to committee members for check-ins, and I'm going to go around, and I'm going to start with Jocelyn.
Again. Okay. Is there a specific question, or you just want?
No, just how are things going? What do you want to see? Is it meeting your expectations?
I think I'm excited that we've sort of gone in a whole new way in my experience of committees like this. My previous two I was in Vancouver and New Westminster were very physical accessibility focused, and I think there's lots that's happened in the last several years that causes us to recognize barriers to inclusion that go beyond just physical accessibility. So I'm really excited at that sort of direction that's taken. I worry a little bit that some folks haven't been able to come or did come and then stopped coming. I did talk to Tarita just to see if there was anything that we could do to make it easier for her, but I suspect with some of them it just was more than they could take on. And that's fair, it totally happens. I'd really love to see more like a breadth of experience represented. I know one of the criticisms we got in Vancouver with our committee was that we were mostly middle-class white people or retired, and we didn't we lacked some of the experience with poverty that I think that really compounds exclusion, and lack of accessibility in programs and infrastructure, and so I think that's why I brought up last time that I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose that focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, whatever form that's going to take, because I think we're still trying to learn that. I have a few just little requests about the use of Zoom. It's really hard to know who's talking in the boardroom from Zoom, except for Cheryl, because I know your voice. Is it possible for the camera to be slightly lower, or everybody to be a little further down the table, or just to say your name before you start talking, especially for the guests, because they don't always catch it, and just to go a little bit slower when we're on Zoom for discussion among the members, because we can't always get our mute off in time to catch you before you go on to the next thing.
Good point. I have a tendency to talk fast, so I never mind a reminder, so thank you. Very good points. I really do like your point about the poverty, because economics really have a big play in a lot of things. Even when you look at the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of that is directed towards poverty as well, so I think, and policies, right? A lot of it's about the policies. So
Intersections, too.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really good point, so thank you for raising that. Okay, Sandra? Concerns, issues?
I don't really have any concerns or issues, unfortunately, just because of scheduling, I wasn't able to attend last meeting, and so I feel a little bit disconnected, so it really shows that it's important to attend every meeting. I think that's what I've learned. I am looking forward to volunteering for a focus group, because I think that rolling up my sleeves and giving some good feedback and incorporating some of the families that I'm connected to is really important. I think what commonality we had when the very first time we met is what I would love to revisit at some point, and I know that it's part of a bigger thing, and a capital plan is bathrooms. Like the most common thing, and it was the article on CBC as well, right? When someone brought up bathrooms in terms of inclusion and people feeling safe and having a basic human need. And it's something that I struggle with my child, and I think a lot of people struggle with diverse abilities. So I just want to bring that back up, because it was very lively, and it was a commonality that joined all of us, because we all had experiences where we felt we needed more inclusive help. So I know it's an interesting, maybe not an interesting topic, but I know that it's a basic human right, and it makes people feel included in the community.
No, to follow that up, because that is a good point, and I know that John Barsby was one of the first to make the unisex washrooms and stuff, so those may be really good questions that we can put to the school board when they're here on their presentation to see how they tackled it, so really, really good point. Rachel?
I'd just like to take a moment to introduce myself, since this is my first time joining. I wasn't aware I was selected to be on this committee, so hi. I'm sorry I didn't show up, I didn't know I was a part of the group.
Oh, that's okay, welcome.
I am a student at VIU, and I am on the Positive Space Alliance group. I just moved to Nanaimo a year ago, and I am a queer pedestrian, so I have a couple different points of experience navigating the city, and I'm really excited to be a part of you guys and to participate in what's happening here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Now, going back to what you said, do you have any suggestions around what we should be doing more around inclusiveness around that? Or do you want to wait till we bring that up in February and get yourself a chance to think about it and bring it forward then?
I think just maybe if there's a way to increase public awareness that the city does have different volunteer councils, as I have never heard of this before, and my neighbor passed on the information that this committee existed when you guys were taking applicants in January, February. And so maybe there's a way to increase public awareness that there are ways to engage and volunteer and make an impact with the city's decision.
Super, thank you very much and welcome. We look forward to your voice. Well, Richard?
I actually want to kind of echo Rachel's thoughts there. I mean, bringing more awareness to several different things. First of all, there is the International Persons with Disabilities Day on December 3rd, and this year the theme is invisible disability. I think right now we're getting right into the seasonal affective disorder time period where a lot of people will be dealing with sad and feeling a little bit more alone. Being able to highlight the services that are still available, being able to highlight the parks and recreation that there is available, being able to advertise the trails that we have, being able to keep people motivated and kind of healthy and thinking about being able to empower themselves in regards to keeping better health during isolation right now, because it does look like we are going to be possibly facing another lockdown in the near future. I think being able to empower citizens and know the tools to be able to combat loneliness, to build community, to be able to keep yourself healthy in the darkest months, especially the darkest months of COVID, will be able to help with having Nanaimo become more resilient. And I think being able to reach out to young people like Rachel at the university is very, very, very important, because young people aren't asked really enough what their thoughts are on things. So even hearing the views of people within the schools, I know you had brought up before a couple students that were very engaged and wanted to present to this committee before. But I think I really want to support the work that staff are doing with engaging the university as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Richard. And I think you make a good point about loneliness and mental health. I know, especially with the kids, my nieces are both in Calgary, well, the three of them, and they're really upset about the school closures. And it's taken a toll on it, and it just happened yesterday, and already they're upset about it. So it does take a huge toll, because that's their social network, and that's their place, and they don't see themselves as the carriers, the young kids, and even the middle grades, it's the older ones a lot of times, so they're worried about it. And then when you're going to the part about recreation, I want to say that our staff is doing an amazing job of getting the message out.
Yeah.
The problem happens is that the orders are changing constantly, so they just get prepared to do an opening, and then the order changes again. So, but I'll tell you, our staff is doing everything within their power to keep the city running and keep as many facilities open. But you raise good points about, we could advertise more about the great walks that are in this town, the great trails.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's things that...
free, that's always accessible. That's
and it's outside doing it. And outside like Dr. Bonnie wants. Okay, Adrian, are you there?
I'm still here. I turned off my video because it's Taco Tuesday in my house and I'm getting my daughter ready for virtual ride. So thank you. Multitasking. Hello, Dale, as well. It's really nice to see you. I'm doing well. I feel really good about the conversations that we have with this committee. I feel really good that the city has this committee. And I want thank you again for establishing this committee. And just touching on two comments that, one that Jocelyn said about representation on the committee and diversity of the committee, and I've had the same thoughts. I know that most of us have on the committee, and within my work, I chair an advisory council, and we've had the same conversation at that table too, that the people who typically volunteer often look the same and often are the same age and things like that. And I also sit on my kids' parent advisory council, and there's the same 6 people every time kind of thing. And so maybe as we go, inviting people is such a great step, and maybe down the line we could form some kind of a working group or have a session where we brainstorm ideas. I've learned some things in the past year working to try to increase diversity, as I said, in a council that I co-chair at my work, and I know that having such a discussion here would help me there as well, because I think it's something that a lot of groups face. And Sandra, I want to thank you for bringing up bathrooms, because that's exactly what I was thinking about earlier when I was thinking about how when we make things better for one group, we make things better for everyone. And that's something else. And another work conversation I had recently was around gender neutral washrooms, and then around cost, and looking at when you look at the cost of these washrooms that are gendered don't work so well for us anymore, so we should refit them, and that's astronomical. But then if you look at in new builds, in new spaces, as we're thinking and planning and changing, can we look at a different model? Can we look at a different way to approach those builds, and can we make them more inclusive, and can we just make a washroom? And those are the kind of conversations that I really appreciate about this table. And just thank you again for having me.
Thank you. So I want to throw this out to the committee then, based on your words. Maybe we need to start thinking about what are the barriers that are stopping from people from different cultures and backgrounds to applying. Like, is it our timing of our committees? Is it the locations? Is it the lack of being able to get here? Because this does go out community-wide, or is there a way maybe we get the messaging out better so that more people might look at applying? So these are things I want us to think about, because obviously when you do look at our committee, it's mostly white females, 1 male, right? And that's just going to gender and color. So why is it? And we face these in other committees too. It's what are the barriers that are stopping from people applying? So just something I want to think about. And I see Sandra first, and then you after, Jocelyn. Sandra?
So are you looking for additional members, or are you just reviewing the members that we have and how to change the process if you're...
Right now, we can't look at new members because it's all set by council, I believe, but we can check into that at a later date. However, what I'm thinking about, and it's not just this committee, it's all of our committees. And you said it yourself, when you look around on the PAC team, like Adrian said, when she's at the PAC and some of her committees, it's the same makeup quite often. So what are the barriers, and I'm going to bring this up at my racism committee, what are the barriers that are preventing some people from coming forward? Some, they feel the lack of acceptance. I've heard that from some of the queer people I've talked to. I've heard that from some of the binaries, or non-binaries, I should say. So we have to look at, how can we make it so that they feel comfortable to come forward, not just to this committee, but all committees. Okay, so, sorry Sandra, you got your hand up again, and then I'll go to you after Jocelyn.
Yeah, so I do think that part of the barrier is the communication, so the only reason...
Oh, you're mute, you're stopped there. You're frozen.
I still want to check in, Linda.
Okay, yeah.
Am I right about? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Can you try again?
Try again, Sandra.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I think the only reason why I heard about this committee was someone sent it to me as a communication, so it might be that we're not reaching diverse group of people.
Okay, that's great. I got that down. Jocelyn, and then we go Linda for check-in.
I just want to, I mentioned it last meeting, but it would be really cool if maybe one of the legislative services staff could reach out to the folks who haven't come at all. Just with no judgment, but just are there any barriers that made it difficult for you to come? And I mean, obviously we share that anonymously, because if it was a systemic barrier or an issue that we just aren't fully clued in with, people might not feel comfortable to share it, and that discomfort is what keeps them from being included. And I think that would be a good option to start. And then if we are allowed to, and if folks don't want to participate, that might be an opportunity to then hold in some other people. I know there's a school board rep that wanted to be involved, and I think she might have something to offer on that.
Well, I talked to Tanya, she missed the cutoff date, that was part of the problem, and we had quite a few people apply, so. All right, I'm gonna go to Linda for her check-in. Linda?
First of all, it's coming out in this order. I'm grateful that there's been a couple trees removed on Commercial Street where the sidewalk is just so incredibly difficult. The sidewalk hasn't been repaired yet, but that's in place. And that's going to make a huge difference for people in chairs and people who can't see walking. I am very grateful to the committee for all I've learned in the last year. I think we're a pretty special committee, and I learned something every single meeting that then I take back to my work. And I'm remembering at our very first meeting when by the end of the 2 hours, we realized that every single person in the room was touched by a disability of some kind. Everybody. It was in themselves or a child or a neighbor. There was nobody who felt they didn't fit into that group. And that's just, when we lift one, we lift everybody. And bathrooms, they're just always going to be key. There is a book coming out at the end of January written by a woman who teaches for the Rick Hansen Foundation called Building Better Bathrooms. And she is brilliant, and she's just her accessibility knowledge across the spectrum, cognitive, physical, hearing, vision, it just blows me away. Richard, you were in a focus group with Samantha, up on campus. So we're building 7 new universal access bathrooms on campus. Right now they'll have ceiling lifts and height adjustable adult change tables, and they're gender neutral. Yeah, they'll be, my goal is 1 on every floor of every building, but we're putting them into buildings that have nothing for people with disabilities. So the art building is getting 2, the English building is getting 2, the physics building is getting 2, the building where geography is getting 1, and so people who need to be lifted out of a chair will be able to come to school and not have a bathroom be an issue. And people who need a bathroom privately for whatever reason, there will just be more of them. So bathrooms are huge, and there was something else that I can't remember. I'm really impressed with the city, with the staff, with the council leadership. I'm just so, every single time we come to a meeting, the city's made a leap forward, and that is so impressive.
Well, thank you very much, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time, I might have, but I don't know if you've seen the washroom at the new airport extension. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
We actually even have a handheld shower thing for those that have incontinence issues or whatever. I mean, you have to ask to go utilize it, but they've really thought of it, and I give kudos to David Whitty for that because he was involved in that design, and he really thought about all that, so wheelchair accessible for those that have, it's really, really cool. So, I think this is something that, we should be proud of, that we are starting to make strides, not as fast as a lot of us would like, but it's coming, and like I said, from this committee, we've made more recommendations and had more stuff already than the other committees put together, so I'm very happy. It's like it's a really committed group, and Zeddy and I always say how much we enjoy coming to this group. It's really good because you leave feeling positive. And that's the big thing I take away from this. Everybody here is positive and they feel that we can make the change, so. And I really want to thank Rachel for coming, and I'm sorry you didn't know about it sooner. We look forward to you, with your voice, giving us some more insights, and now I gotta go to Zeddy.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, and I just want to reiterate again and thank everybody who is on this committee for your time and your energy and your valuable input. Because like Linda said, every meeting I have learned something and raised my awareness, and this is how we build our better community. I think we do have a challenge with seeing people of more diverse color, let's say. And so I think maybe it's incumbent of us as individuals to reach out to people we know and encourage them when we go into future years. But maybe the city, we could also, I think about, we don't necessarily reach out to ethnic groups to say, hey, we've got this happening. Maybe it's a letter that goes out to the various organizations that represent different, whether it's Black Lives Matter or Indochina or whatever, right? So I think we can make a better effort in that, but it's mostly, it comes down to communication. So anyways, I just want to say thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Zenny, and that's great. I know staff have been taking down notes around the communication piece, and it's something that, we can always get better at, It's hard sometimes because you think that you've covered bases and all of a sudden you hear about another one, you think, oh, I didn't know about that. So this is where I see that this is being very beneficial for the city when we hear about more of these groups that we can reach out to. Like I do know that we did reach out to the Multicultural Society. We did reach out to the First Nations. So, but the thing with the First Nations, a lot of times, we're reaching out to David. And there's a lot of First Nations live off reserve that may have been interested that don't hear the same degree. So I really hear your points on that. And it's something that we can really work at to try and improve that for next time. And for all committees too, right? Not just this committee, but all committees. So unless there's anything else, I'm going to ask for somebody to move for adjournment. And then we will, we're going to have a full schedule next time. So expect to be here for the 2 hours next time. Because we're going to have all those people there. So have your food ready.
Okay, I'll move for adjournment.
Zenny does that every day. Thank you. All in favor? And we will get a note out to you about the time change if we can do it at 4. If not, it will be at 5, the normal time.
3 is the normal time.
No, it's not. Is it? Oh, 3. Sorry, 3 is our normal time. It used to be 5 now.
What is time during COVID?
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. But we will get a message out to everybody. And thanks for taking time out of your day to share with us. Appreciate it all. Thank you, staff.
Bye.
See me anyway.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Where's the off button here?
So another one for your upcoming agenda.
Hang on, just let me turn this. Is this off? Am I off now? Did I push the red one?
I'm just,
No. I pushed that one off.
yep, thank you.
Hello?
So for your upcoming agenda, with the interest about the walkway,
Yeah.
and we're going to be coming back to council soon, updating on the functional design, I think it would be